welcome to the Canadian Football Countdown. I'm Ryan Coop here alongside Trey Colbeck and Adam Stewart. Welcome one and all to our live Week 11 CFL Preview show here on the Canadian Football Countdown, episode number 168. Tonight, we're going to go through some of the major storylines for each upcoming game, discuss the best CFL fantasy options available, and make our picks against the spread. We'll also take your comments, we'll take your questions in our live chat throughout the night as well, all made possible by our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV. You can learn more at facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. Hello to everybody joining us in the YouTube chat, over on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and the Game Time TV YouTube page as well. Also, hello to everybody watching or listening after the fact. Before I bring in the rest of the panel this evening, I do want to mention we are a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. And as always, want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. Now, we did tease this week that we did have a special bonus episode coming out on Friday. We do apologize for the delay. Something did come up last minute, and we were not able to coordinate that for today after all. So if you are here for the live announcement of that today, unfortunately, it is being rescheduled, but stay tuned. We do have an awesome guest, hopefully joining us here on the podcast in the very near future. But that being said, we've got a fun night of football talk ahead of us here still. Always happy to be here with you two guys. Let's bring them in here. First, it's the great Trey Colbeck. Trey, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic, guys. Disappointed about our potential guest, but in due time, I'm sure we'll have the opportunity again. And mention it to you guys, but mention it to the fans. Madden 23 comes out tomorrow night, so if you don't hear from me over the weekend, I promise I'm okay. But I'll just maybe a Red Bull coma or something. But other than that, I'm doing great. Adam, what about you?
You know, I might be in the same place here pretty soon, even though I have a field to combine and things to get ready. It's exciting that we get to go and talk some more CFL football this week. And of course, our special guest didn't quite work out the way we thought it might have. Unfortunately, he got probably real busy. But you know what? I'm glad to be here, and we can still get to talk some CFL football. And even Trey, he's wearing the right jersey tonight. Of course, 6-1 for the Blue Jays tonight. All good.
Right on. Yes. Fun night ahead of us. Of course, here on the podcast. This episode of the podcast is brought to you in part by Betstamp. There are so many different sports books out there these days. Each one offers you different prices on the same games. How do you ensure you're getting the best value? Well, Betstamp provides you the info at no additional cost. You simply pull up the game on the Betstamp app. You can take a look at all of the different odds, different point spreads available to you, helps you place the bet that'll maximize the return for the pick you're making. And if you find some odds you like, you can sign up directly for them and make a bet by going through the Betstamp bet link page. If you want extra insight on your wagers, you can also take a look at the commission-free Betstamp marketplace. You can see who other pickers are picking in each CFL game, many other sports as well. You can follow us on there. Just search CF Countdown Pod to see our consensus picks that we'll be making later on in the show here today. You can also see Trey's record, our resident betting expert, Trey CF Countdown, I believe, username there. So go check that all out. And through the verified bet tracking feature, you get the guarantee that the odds that we're betting on are verified and legitimate. Visit betstamp.app or download it from your local app store for free. Sign up with referral code CFC to let them know we sent you. And start tracking your bets. Best of luck with your wagers. And remember, always bet responsibly. So without further ado, we've got 4 games on the schedule again for this week. So let's hand it over to Adam here to tell us what the major storylines are.
Yeah, well, hey, we're going to be starting up tomorrow night with the Edmonton Elks. Going out to Ottawa, to the nation's capital, to face the Ottawa Redblacks. This game here, I'm going to make it we're going to try to get this going a little bit quicker for storyline. Ryan didn't go and shoot me over in the back of the thing last time, so I'm going to try to get through these a little bit quicker. So what we've done is, Each guy's going to grab a storyline. We're going to talk about it. So I'm going to be the gracious host and let these guys go first. Ryan, what are you looking forward to in the Elks and the Redblacks this week?
Yeah, the major thing I'm looking forward to in this one from the Ottawa side is that they had a rough go. Caleb Evans had a brutal game right before the bye week against Calgary Stampeders. Now they seem to have a good progress going for them. A few weeks before that, seemed like maybe they were trending in the right direction there. But then it was a rough go against Calgary. Now they've had the bye week. Now they come back out against Edmonton, a team that they beat a couple of times last season. So that's the major thing I'm looking at, is how they respond, especially Caleb Evans here is the main thing I'm looking at on the Ottawa side of things in this one. And especially, what are they going to do? William Powell out of the lineup with an injury here, I believe, for them. A couple other injuries, RJ Harris as well. So, other guys are going to have to step up in the lineup, and that was a chance for them. It's a tight East division, so I think there's just as much of a chance as any for Ottawa to get back into things, and it's got to start with a win coming out of the bye week over Edmonton is what I'm looking at here. Trey?
I'm going to call this game the who can tank for Curtis Rourke Bowl or something like that, because this is – wait, he's not draft eligible until 24, so a little early, but – this is kind of the battle for the first overall draft pick, it looks like. And, Edmonton, I don't know, both teams really need a win, but I think Edmonton needs one a little more because the East seems to be a little tighter. And Edmonton's falling away from the top three for sure. And Saskatchewan could always, they could sweep Banjo Bowl Labor Day. And I'm doing some stupid bet that I lost to Adam on the show in a few weeks pretty easily. So, Edmonton's really got to turn things around. But so does Ottawa. We've been, a lot of people talk already first 11 weeks about Lapo. So, how much longer is he going to go into this second half? So I think I really want to see Lapo do something here to show, no, I'm a head coach. We're going to beat the other worst team in the league, but at least we got to win.
And what I'm looking forward to this week is to see if there's some more consistency built by the Edmonton Elks. They had a little bit last week against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Katie Lawler had some good plays. Taylor Cornelius actually was kind of beating the Roughriders with his feet, which was something we haven't seen very much. And the defense even seemed to have a few moments where they were getting a little bit of pressure on a three-man front on Cody Fajardo, like I said earlier this week in the recap episode. But, I'm just looking for Edmonton to maybe keep that same roster, try to build on some things, and start to look at what you're maybe going to do for the future. Maybe it's not this year, and because now the Riders have that season series on you, it's pretty tough for you to come back on this. But I'm really wanting to see some more consistency out of the Edmonton Elks. And one thing that I really know that they need to do to be more consistent is to get rid of the penalties. You can't go and give yourself 130 plus yards of penalties and expect to win a football game. It's as simple as that. So with more time in there, with more, with more players that have been playing together, hopefully those penalties start to drop. Although, Ryan, I know you did say in our chat earlier last week, it's Chris Jones. It's going to be penalties. So,
yeah, Chris Jones, you never know what you're going to get with him, right? Which makes for a fun football game to watch, especially when you like seeing Chris Jones fail.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so we're going to move on to the next game here again. We're going to be doing rapid fire more for these previews just because we got to get through these a little bit quicker. But in the meantime, I'm also going to try to answer some of your chat questions a little bit better, like the one that Richard gave us. His question was, I'm wondering if you guys think that it was better for the league to have Winnipeg being undefeated, or is it better that one team doesn't run away with the season? Trey, why don't you answer that one first?
From a league-wide perception, I guess it's better that they lost, keep it tight. And we can say all we want about the crappy East, but it's a tight division, right? So it's going to lead for an exciting last few weeks of how things will sit. And the top of the West is shaping up like that too. But if Winnipeg took off with it, gets a little space in between BC and Calgary, might not be as exciting. But from a Winnipeg standpoint or any individual fan base, I think undefeated would have been better. But no, season-wide, I think it's better they did. Ryan?
Yeah, to me, you might get a little more new fan interest or a little more publicity, right, across the country and maybe down in the States as well if you have this team all of a sudden going on this undefeated run. But Chances are they weren't going to go undefeated eventually. I would almost rather have a team step up and pull off a big upset win over them in the middle of the season here than it be all the starters are rested in week 17, 18, or I guess 19, 20 or whatever. And the perfect season is broken by, the starters resting at that point. I don't think it was going to be feasible. So I'm kind of happy it happened here. And like I said on a recap show the other day, I'm happy it happened in the most chaotic way, because that's the true notable entertainment here, right? Is that you lose your undefeated streak against a team with only a couple wins on the season by missing a last second kick, going to overtime, and then hitting one off the upright. Like, you can't make that up, and that's entertainment gold, and I'm happy it worked out the way it did.
You know what I always see is most teams that end up winning a Grey Cup always have that mid-season adversity somewhere. 2013, it happened with the Roughriders. Corey Sheets was out for a little while. In 2019, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers really were kind of in that middle 500 piece until all of a sudden Zach Calaro shows up out of nowhere and wins them a Grey Cup. So I think a team really needs that adversity to be a really, really good team. And a team that could work through that will definitely be going into there as well. As a league-wide perception, you know what? It's fun for fans to watch and say, can a team finally pull off a perfect season? But to me, I think as a fan of the team, no, I'm not a Bomber fan, but I'll tell you right now, it's going to help the Bombers in the long run, because now they know that, hey, we're not perfect. We got to work on stuff, and we got to continue to work on stuff to get it better. So anyways, let's move on to Friday Night Football here. This is the game. I don't know if I'd call this one the game of the week. I will, because, I drink the green Kool-Aid. It's the BC Lions at the Saskatchewan Roughriders, round 2. Guys, what are we looking forward to seeing on Friday Night Football? Trey, how about we go with you first on this one?
Well, I'm going to steal it from Ryan. I'm looking forward to Nathan Rourke. Looking at his stats, he's 450 yards passing, higher than the second leader. He's got 2 less games played. He's at 2,900 at 8 games, and Caleros is at just shy of 2,500 at 10 games. That's insane. I want to see if that continues. I want to see if one thing I was saying in the group chat is, he's played very well against Eastern teams, and Edmonton. But he hasn't, he won against Calgary, but it needed a late second half comeback. Hasn't beat Winnipeg. Is this going to be the same thing as that? So that's what I want to see. This is one of those games we're going to talk about maybe at the end of the year when Ryan has his Hall of Fame ceremony all set up. This is the discussion we'll be having. Did he beat enough of the good teams this year to really crown him HOF first year, Ryan?
I love it. Everybody's waiting for this moment that the Nathan Rourke show comes crashing down, it almost seems like, and week after week there's a true test, and it seems, and they pass with flying colors. Like, BC is on a roll right now. So, the main thing I like to watch all the time in these games is, can they keep it going at the insane pace they are? Can we get a third straight 400-yard passing game? I sure hope so. I know Adam doesn't. As a Riders fan on the other side of the matchup. But to me, the more intriguing thing is how as Adam drinks from his Riders cup, the comedic visual timing. If you're listening to the podcast episodes, you're missing out on that if you're not watching the live video. The thing to me is I'm more interested in actually Saskatchewan here, how they perform in this one. They've had a couple games this year, and Edmonton last week was another one where it was just sloppy play most of the way through. The offensive line wasn't doing a whole lot. BC is up there in terms of one of the better defenses in the league as well. So to me, it's the intrigue of how does Cody Fajardo respond? Last week, he was using his legs, which is encouraging given the injury, but his passing game just wasn't there. I think Jamal Morrow is actually a player I'm most intrigued to watch, because it seems like his production's almost dried up a little bit the last couple of weeks. So for the Riders, I'm looking at, what can they do here to shore up the inconsistencies that we've seen for most of the game, and can they play the same type of game that they do in the final 5 minutes seemingly the whole way through? Because if they do, I think they've got a very good shot at this.
You know what I'm going to be looking forward to is the return of a few players this week for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Garrett Marino is off a suspension. Let's hope that he can keep it well within the rule book of the CFL and can play a very good game. If he can, and I know he can play good football. He's a good defensive lineman, but he just got to play within the rules. We've also probably got back Pete Robertson over on the other side of the football. Could make it fun for Nathan Rourke. He hasn't faced quite that much adversity besides Winnipeg and Willie Jefferson and Jackson Jeffcoat. So this could be Saskatchewan's version of that. I'd be interested to see what happens. Looks like AC Leonard will be possibly also back. He's been practicing all week. He might just be playing this game. We'll see what happens with that as well. I know last week, I believe we said he was moving over to the 6-game injured list. Seems like Saskatchewan maybe had a change of mind on that one. So we'll see what happens. The other game thing that I'm looking forward into this one is, again, can the Roughriders contain Nathan Rourke? That's why I've been bringing up the defensive line. Last week, Taylor Cornelius, who is a guy that doesn't usually rush the football, was rushing the football on Saskatchewan. That'll be interesting to see. The other part that I'm looking forward to seeing on this one is they did have a change up this week. I know Trey had to make sure that he reminded me of this. Natai Rogers and Jacob Prohl were both released by the Roughriders this week. Natai Rogers, 14 penalties in 9 games, just way too many penalties. And I hope that sends a message to this team that, hey, you've got to stop taking these penalties when they really count. Again, holding has been one for Saskatchewan. It's been a thorn in their foot probably for at least 2 years now. With that being said, we're going to move on to the next game. But first, I'm just going to say a couple of comments. I'll just read them out here. Chris says that the Roughriders will probably have a 20-point lead, and then Nathan Rourke will have a huge comeback in the fourth to win. Chris, I hope you can never be more wrong than that, but it happened last time. Richard over in the chat, the last time that they played BC, they didn't show up in the second half. BC didn't show up for the first half, so I'd like to see who puts full 60 minutes in. Absolutely. That's a good one to talk about too. I think that, if Nathan Rourke can put in a full 60 minutes, this game's going to be a blowout. If the Riders can finally put a full 60 minutes in, I think it'll be a closer game, but the Riders should win it then. So it just depends who gets 60 minutes in here. And Chris also says they have like 7 points made up from a field goal, a safety, and a rouge. Yeah, it happens. But they still count no matter what. So you know what? I'll take it. Let's move on to the next game here. Mike's also in the chat I see tonight. Riders over the Lions in the weekly upset special. Man, Mike, I never heard you say such compliments about my Roughriders for a very long time. I'll note the date and the time and write that one down in the book. In the meantime, we've got another game to talk about. This one's the first half of a doubleheader Saturday, I believe. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are taking on the Montreal Alouettes over in Percival Molson Stadium. Guys, Ryan, we'll go with you first. What's the storyline that you're looking forward to in this one this week?
Well, the Montreal Alouettes are coming off a pretty darn big victory here over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It's a division where really any wins you can get against the West are going to help you propel you up the standings, but you still got to win those ones in the close division matchups here too, right? So the big thing is how does Montreal replicate the defensive effort they put up last week? I want to see them run that same Noel Thorpe defensive special we saw that game where they loaded up in the box. They sent the blitz all night, and that caused havoc on Zach Collaros and a very good Winnipeg offensive line. Now, you have Hamilton on the other side of this with the offensive line that I don't think is necessarily up there as one of the better ones. So if Mike Moore and co can get home for a couple of sacks, especially on potentially former teammate Matt Schiltz, who could get a second straight start here with Dane Evans still being a little bit nicked up. There is potential for a good game here for the Alouettes. On the Hamilton side of things, for me, it's can they play, again, much like Saskatchewan, can they play a full 60-minute effort? Because they pulled it out over the Argos with a big fourth quarter comeback last game, but can they do that time and time again? This is a team that's seemingly missing a lot of pieces due to injury right now. They might be getting some of them back, but the depth here is being tested for Hamilton. So I want to see them be able to next man up, as Trey says, rise to the occasion. What are you guys? What are you looking at here for this game, Trey?
I'm going to call this one the game of the week, and maybe not based off of entertainment value, but standings and importance, right? They're tied. And later on Saturday, you have Toronto, the team you're trying to catch, play Calgary, who I don't know if Bo is going to let himself get embarrassed twice like that, right? So it's a big game here, and it goes long for the tie break. It gives you a little bit of edge here. And you have Hamilton, who has, 2 more against Toronto after this, right? So I'm looking more from a little bit step back view. And, a lot could go on in the game, but I think the grander chess game here is a big one. You need to I even liked, was it last week when Dinwiddie kicked that last second field goal just for points kind of thing? Like, I think you're going to start seeing some of that stuff in this East right now, where you maybe, a little bit of salt rubbing or a little bit of extra points. So, hey, it's football, play the full 40 minutes, right? But I'm liking the Owls in this one, and they're coming off a big win in IG Field against, the undefeated team at the time, and Hamilton I don't feel is getting things going. So, and they've been banged up with the Southern Ontario battle there. So I think it's going to be a good one. I think this will be a nail biter, and we'll talk about it later with the betting. Very interesting lines this week, and this is another one that I find interesting, but I'm leaning towards Montreal.
Yeah, no, this is a huge game. Like Richard just said in the chat, this one here pretty much could almost determine who maybe gets third place, who gets second place. And the way this league is going this year, third place is definitely not a guarantee for a playoff spot right now, the way the East is going. So to me, you look at these two teams, and one has been banged up for quite a while, has just kind of won a game, lost a game, won a game, lost a couple games. And the other team, I just seen them beat the two-time defending Grey Cup champions. I got to pick the two-time defending Grey Cup champion beaters to possibly win this one here. I think they're more healthy to begin with. And in that case, I hope that the Tiger Cats can make a game of this. I just don't know right now what exactly to think on the East. Like Trey always says, the East is so hard to decide. It's just going to be difficult to say which team can really win this one here. I'm looking forward also to hearing the Montreal fans. I hope they get out there. I know that Gary Stern is doing and rallying his troops and trying to get all of his guys out to try out some poutine and win this game here in Montreal. So, yeah, bring out your horns, make the game loud, and
don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh, bring the horns. Why not? It's all fun with those. So
I'll be watching this game on mute.
Well, you can always add in the play-by-play afterwards, I suppose, or make your own if you really want to have fun with it.
Well, one quick thing I want to mention here on this game when you're talking about Montreal, the thing I am truly watching besides the defense from their standpoint, because I don't know if I'll get into this later when we talk fantasy, is have we started to see the resurgence of Jake Winicky, who seemed to get a couple key catches last game for Montreal. He's had a really down year. He looked good last game. I want to know if Montreal's going to try to go back to him to revisit that chemistry, because that would be a huge difference for their team to get him going again.
I want to say no because I dropped him on fantasy.
Chris in the chat also goes and says, I think the Owls are the dark horse team right now in the East. Just an opinion. Quick comment from each of you on that one there. Are the Alouettes the dark horse, or are they kind of getting exposed a little bit that they are probably a pretty good team in the East? Ryan?
Can you have a dark horse if they're all the same color because they're all neck and neck in the standings? Like, I don't think you can have a dark horse when you don't even – I mean, we should I shouldn't be the one answering this. Really, our resident horse expert here should. Trey, surely you can't really have a dark horse when there's nobody in front of the pack, right?
I'll call them dark mules, those dark rented mules. You know what I mean? And then you can, that's what I'll call them, not a horse. But I don't think so. I don't know. If anything, yeah, with the three teams all being lined up, I guess technically the Ottawa would be the dark horse with the chance. I think, yeah, Montreal's in that third spot. So if you want to consider them out of the playoff race technically, then fine. But honestly, we could talk about the next game later, Calgary, Toronto. Like, Toronto's almost in a big win situation there too with these two teams. One of these two teams have to. Well, they don't have to win, I guess. It could be a tie. Oh God, there's a tie. Oh, the math experts are going to go crazy on that. I'm not good at math. I can't do that. Standings at the end of the year, but it's a big game. I love it. But yeah, there used to be donkey races are the best, man. They're the best.
I never seen a donkey race in my life, Trey, and now I want to see one. So, organize that for the new Winnipeg guys.
I have a link. I'll find the link.
Oh, you got to send me that. I got to see that later on. Anyways, moving on to the next game or the last game of the week here. This is the Calgary Stampeders traveling out to Toronto to take on the Montreal Alouettes. I guess storylines in this game here, just for the fun of it, I'll go first on this one. Andrew Harris is a huge story going into this one. And, well, going to be the lack there of Andrew Harris. He is now, as per Dave Naylor, I haven't seen any official report yet from the Toronto Argonauts, but Dave Naylor of TSN has reported that it is a season-ending injury for Andrew Harris and will be out this whole season. Absolutely devastating for the Toronto Argonauts. Of course, when there's one guy goes down, another guy gets an opportunity. AJ Ouellette will probably get the start, I would presume, for the Toronto Argonauts. Probably we'll talk a little bit more about him later on, especially with Ryan around here doing fantasy. But, yeah, I'm very interested to see how AJ Ouellette does this week up against the Stampeders, who's usually pretty good against the run game. And also, again, we've got Ryan Dinwiddie's offense. We don't know what in the world he's ever going to do. He's becoming the new, it's going to be Ryan Moss pretty soon if he keeps this up. Ryan, what's your storyline for this game?
Well, yeah, I'm very intrigued as well to see which of the backups are going to be, coming in here and taking the reins over the next couple of weeks, whether it's AJ Ouellette, whether it's Daniel Edeboboye. I just really like it to flex any possible moment where I can nail the last name on that one. I hope I did actually. If not, that's embarrassing. I'm excited to see either of them get a shot to run here. But the thing I want to talk about from this game, from the Argos perspective, is something our good friend Ben Grant over at X's and Argos brought up on Twitter this week, which is, everybody's been giving so much flack to McLeod Bethel-Thompson. People want McLeod Bethel-Thompson replaced in Toronto. They blame him most of anybody for the struggles they've had. Well, as Ben said on Twitter, he's top 3 in completion percentage, passing yards, yards per attempt, touchdowns, QB efficiency, interception percentage this season among quarterbacks. Like, Bethel-Thompson has been having himself a pretty solid season. I think the team as a whole has had some issues, which, has led to their iffy record, their inconsistency here. But I don't think he's had a bad season. I agree with this wholeheartedly. Nathan Rourke's clearly the number 1 quarterback so far this year. Zach Collaros is having a pretty good season as well. But there's really not anybody else who stands out to you. Like Cody Fajardo's had a down year and he's been facing injury. Like Edmonton, the quarterback situation there is a little bit messy. You go through Calgary. Bo Levi Mitchell has had a down season. Maybe I'll chime in on him in a bit after you guys weigh in on the Argos here super quick. Out east, it's been a mess there as well. Montreal's gone through a couple quarterbacks. Hamilton's gone through a couple quarterbacks. Ottawa as well. Everybody's been injured or everybody's been just playing underwhelming football. So for the people in Toronto or elsewhere that want McLeod Bethel-Thompson to be replaced, go out and show me who could possibly be better, right? Like, who are they going to bring in that's better? I think he's the guy, and I'm looking forward to him having another shot this week to prove it. And I am assuming you're not laughing at what I'm saying. I'm assuming Trey sent the link about the donkey races.
I don't need to watch Shrek anymore. I've got donkey races. That's all I'm going to say. Trey, what's your points this week for the Stampeders and the Argos?
Well, could you touch? Yeah, like Bethel-Thompson, would we call him the halfway Eastern MOP right now? Like, who's close to him? Like, I was kind of leaning towards Harris, but not anymore. And unless there's some defensive standout or special teams, which I can't think of, like, he's going to probably, at this point, I would give him the Eastern MOP, and Western MOP is, well, of course, I was going to say McJesus, but that's McDavid, Nathan Rourke. And then he's going to win it at this point, probably MOP and MOC. He should get both, honestly. But so it's a weird game. This is a game, like I said, one of those teams, and the other game has to win, but the other one has to lose too. So Toronto has a chance to get a little bit more separation on the third place team and potentially Ottawa. They need to run it. Whoever their backup is it that Alouettes, I believe? Yeah, okay. You got to give him the ball. Try to get Speedy B in if he's in the lineup. Run. How you going to dominate the line here? And Calgary, just don't blow a 20-point lead and lose to a last-second field goal. But if you do, cover the spread. Cover the spread for me. That's all I ask.
I just want to bring a quick little point also on Calgary here. Kadeem Carey still is possibly injured this week. Just to keep that in mind as well. Also, their main receiver so far this year, Malik Henry, also on the limited / did not practice in one game this week. Practice this week. So just keep that in mind with Calgary as well. They do have some injuries popping up. I don't know if it'll really affect them that much. I mean, it is the Argonauts. Although the Argonauts can just turn it on at any time. And I think last week was good McLeod Bethel Thompson? I can't remember. We have to make a little diagram here so we know when it's good Macbeth, when it's bad Macbeth. So that way there we know what's going on here, because I think this is the week of bad Macbeth, unfortunately, for the Toronto Argonauts. Hopefully he'll be okay, but we'll see how it goes.
I just want to weigh in on the Calgary side, because you mentioned the injuries there for them, right? That was the big thing that changed things around in that second half against BC, where I think they lost like 2 or 3 of their starting receivers due to injury going into the second half there. And Calgary's always been heralded as a team that seems to find the diamonds in the rough at pretty much any position, especially wide receiver. They have guys come out of nowhere and be huge playmakers. I think that's going to, especially if they're out again here, I think that's going to be tested. We saw flashes of Sean Bain last season. Well, he came in, was the big go-to guy the last week for Calgary, right? And so, Jalen Philpott has potentially a chance to step in if he's ready to go in this one. So, maybe miss a couple pieces due to injury, but next man up. And Calgary's historically a group that can do that, but they're going to need to with a pretty thin receiving core there with people banged up.
Yeah, thin receiving core, and also don't forget that linebacking core is just as thin. Jameer Thurman is still kind of banged up, and Trey Robertson is gone for the season. So there's pieces missing all over the place. I mean, yes, they got Cam Judge there, which is a big help, but he needs somebody on his other side to help him out as well. Otherwise, he's just a guy kind of there. Hopefully, Calgary has enough depth for this. I think they do. I mean, let's face it, between Huffnagel and Dickinson, they know what they've got and they know how to build a team. There's a reason why they were considered a Belichick kind of team for a long time in the CFL, and go from there. Like Richard said in the chat, though, you know what? Toronto did beat Saskatchewan twice. There's an opportunity there for them to come in, play a great game against Calgary and win this one. You never know what can happen until you play the game. You got to play the game to find out what's going to happen. So with that being said, I shaved enough time that Ryan won't chastise me this week, and we'll move on to Ryan's fantasy picks for week 11 or 12, I believe.
I'm very impressed here, Adam. That was a very tight run time on these, and I think we still covered a lot of ground. But let us know in the comments. Let us know on social media, what do you think of the condensed storyline segment there? Do you still feel like you're getting all of the info out of it? As we move along to talk a little CFL fantasy here this week. Of course, we're all playing in the CFL Podcast Fantasy League, the 3 of us, looking to make our way to the playoffs as we, get down to the final, 6-7 weeks left before playoff time. Matchups this week, I am playing Superfan Mike of the Turf District. I'm very scared because I've been playing in this league for a couple of years now. I've never beaten Superfan Mike in a fantasy matchup. I finished near the top of the standings every season, but he's the one guy. Superman has his kryptonite, Superfan is my kryptonite. So I got to come up with a big performance here this week to pull out the win. Who do you guys have for matchups this week? Does anybody know off the top of their heads, or I can?
I've got mine all lined up. I've got Travis Kerr, the 2 and Out CFL podcast, and if anybody ever knows me before this podcast, 2 and Out was actually the first podcast that I was ever on. So I guess it's a little bit of the student trying to take on the master, and unfortunately, I decided to open my mouth up a little too much on Twitter. And made a bet with Travis that the next time he's out this way, we'll go for Chinese food. Loser has to buy. And if you know both me and Travis, that could be a pretty expensive proposition. So nevertheless, we'll see how this goes. I need some help, though, guys, to make sure I got a great lineup because I really don't want to lose that bet. Trey, who do you got?
I have the Argos Fancast. Looking forward to this. We're all clustered up there, man. 2 to 8, 2 to 9 are all within a half a game in the stupid odd team league. So the buys are really throwing me off, and I think I might buy last week too. So I have no games in hand, so I'm trying to play catch up here. But I'm looking forward to it. Interesting week with the 2 Friday and 2 Saturday games. An extra day to think about things, but also an extra day with no depth charts, right, Ryan?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of nice, though, then to have the depth charts condensed into those 2 days, right? So you're not like picking something for the Thursday game and then you got a long ways till sometimes it's like a Sunday game after that. But in terms of, so that's our weekly set your lineup fantasy there. We also have our season long fantasy league that the 3 of us and our friend Mike are in as well. And we had some interesting developments this week. A lot of trades have been thrown around, trade proposals. Trey has disappeared off the screen, maybe in shame. We'll find out. We've had a lot of trade proposals thrown around left and right over the past number of weeks, and let me put on my best Gary Bettman impression here for y'all. Please, nobody boo. We have a trade to announce, and this trade is between one Team Trey and one Team Mike. This trade took place officially Tuesday afternoon at 3:42 p.m. Central time in Winnipeg. I think the timing is of note here. Let's see. Team Mike receives from Team Trey quarterback Zach Collaros and Canadian running back Brady Oliveira. And in return, Team Trey receives quarterback Trevor Harris, wide receiver Reggie Bagleton, and running back Andrew Harris. Now, of course, as we talked about in the Argos segment, unfortunately, Andrew Harris has now since then been ruled out for the season. We do have a statement from Team Mike, provided a written statement earlier today saying, this is a trade that helps Team Garrell address some weaknesses on the roster in the hopes of taking a run for a championship. And now we go live to Team Trey for the live reaction.
Man, my only comment is the one sitting in our group chat, and it's not safe enough for the podcast. So Mike knows what it is. Buy me dinner next time, buddy. Buy me dinner first. That's all I got to say.
Hey, I'm just loving the booze in the podcast and the comments. I mean, they got the Gary Bettman impression right down to really great.
I'm feeling it, guys. I'm feeling it. I love it. We did have some additional moves here. First of all, Trey, maybe explain your reasoning on the Andrew Harris trade, because I think you have some decent, solid reasoning there.
No, because I thought, like I said, I thought he would be out 5-6 weeks, so I'd have him for the end of the season. And like I was saying earlier, maybe Bethel Thompson's the Eastern MOP. Like, who else are you going to maybe put up there? You know, reigning Grey Cup MOP and stuff like that. So, you know, I was thinking about that. And then if we're a keeper league and he decided to come back next year, maybe like I said, I got rid of everyone else good. He might be the guy I keep. We have to have a Canadian. We have to have 2 Canadians on the roster with 1 starter. So I thought, even if he shows up next year and is just a backup in Toronto, he's a Canadian that I didn't have to waste a draft pick on. And I can go, go elsewhere. You know, it wasn't a bad idea. And again, I'm just looking for Curtis Rourke. I just want the first overall pick. He's going to be added to my negotiation list. And or maybe I'll talk to our buddy Brandon. I'll talk to our buddy Brandon next year, and I'll get a little bit of scoop on some of these college guys Yeah, thanks, Brandon, for coming on the show like 4 weeks into the season, and you couldn't help me out before this, buddy. But it's great to have a guy like that in the wings. So I'll be in his DM soon here.
Yeah, Richard in the YouTube chat says we all make mistakes. Watch Trevor Harris light the world on fire. It's possible. And there's a long way to go. You still have time to catch up here, Trey. Anything can happen. Of course, a couple other moves made this week. Mike did add Javon Catoy to his roster. He had an empty spot at wide receiver after trading away Reggie Begelton. And Trey did move Andrew Harris to the injured reserve and added Canadian running back Joshua Nantwi, who had a solid week last week in fantasy. Now let's take a look at the fantasy options available to pick from this week if you're playing the official CFL fantasy game and taking a look at options to fit in. Chris in the chat says dark horse team. There you go. We were just talking about dark horse teams. You got this, Trey. I believe in you. By the way, I also, before we want to move on, I do want to mention that the rest of the guys have gotten so fed up with Nathan Rourke and his appearance on my fantasy team that I have been called out on whether or not he counts as as a starting Canadian because quarterbacks don't. So, when you win, people start accusing you of cheating. I get it, whatever. I'm over it. I will start a second Canadian and still kick all of your butts just to spite you.
Just full note. I have no complaint. We just had one complaint. Where's the cat? Oh, this way. This guy right there.
Hey, you can't blame me. I mean, I'm trying to get back into this contest, and I still think if this was properly done, that the commissioner would immediately pull Nathan Rourke from his lineup and not play him anymore. Just because
that's not
violating the rules. How long?
Hey, I'll play a second Canadian.
Just straight shots, man. Oh, if he did it proper at the beginning, we wouldn't be here.
Best 5th round draft pick ever. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Oh man, we don't deserve to be on the podcast.
No,
man.
not even close.
That's like.
On that note, let's talk fantasy.
Oh man!
All that time that I saved in the reviews, well,
hey, it's out the window now. We have, the people had to know that I was under fire here, but I'll keep picking up. I'll keep racking up those wins, and y'all can come talk to me at the end of the season when I start 2 Canadians every week and still win because I've got Curly Gittens Jr. on my roster, who I think is one of the top Canadian receivers in the league as well. But let's talk your fantasy picks for the week, everybody. Let's take a look at the quarterback position. First of all, Nathan Rourke is now up to $14,000. The Rourke stock market is through the roof. You would need 35 fantasy points from him to hit that total. Well, he's averaged 32.3 and hit over 36 again last week. So, honestly, at this point, I'm strongly considering putting Nathan Rourke in. I always tinker and, I tempt it a little bit, and then I look at the lineup, and then I'm like, well, what happens if he fails? I think if you can find a couple other positions of cheap players that you are confident can hit a couple points over their value, put Nathan Rourke in your lineup because there's going to come a time when he's not hitting 30 points probably. Chances are he's probably going to. If he doesn't, if you have a couple other guys you're confident can pick up a few points to make up for it, it's worth putting him in your lineup. If you're not sold on the value plays, well, then Rourke's not worth it, is my simple statement on that. But the options I like, besides potentially Rourke this week, I like McLeod Bethel Thompson at 91.81. I think Bethel Thompson is primed for another good game here. He's been on a roll like we talked about. He's also playing the Calgary Stampeders defense that got lit up by BC last week, that got lit up by the Bombers a couple of weeks ago, and is surprisingly giving up a lot of yards and points. So I do like Bethel Thompson as a play potentially this week. I also like either Caleb Evans or Taylor Cornelius, two quarterbacks that get a lot of running yards. They're also facing each other's defenses, which aren't great. So I'm kind of leaning in that direction. I really want to take a chance on Caleb Evans, a bounce back this week, because I think he showed some good success, but he did struggle in that game against Calgary. He's had a bye to review the footage. I'm expecting a bounce back against an Elks team that struggles a lot against the run, which could also mean struggling against a running quarterback. And then I don't know what you guys are thinking here, but Bo Levi Mitchell keeps dropping in price at $7,047. And it's like they're trying to tempt me and trying to convince me he's worth putting in my fantasy lineup. I just don't know if I can go there. Like, he's averaging 13.1 on the season. It's getting close to what you need out of him. But he's been struggling to put up the touchdowns or the big yardage there. He doesn't run the ball. And then you got to see the depth charts yet. Perhaps a cheap play in Matt Schultz if you're looking for a really cheap play. So that's kind of how I see the quarterback landscape this week. How about you guys? Trey, who are you looking at as your quarterback for week 11?
Oh, man, you should see my potential lineup right now. It's nasty just because I have Nathan Rourke at quarterback, and then it drops off from there. Like, the next highest salary I have is $5,300 right now. So but things are getting tight in our league, man. It's real tight. Oh, man. If I don't go with, I think right now I'm going to go with the nasty lineup with Nathan Rourke and a bunch of 5,000s and less and see what can happen this week. But if I did have to go elsewhere, Bethel Thompson, what you save, big chunk, you save like $7,000 or $5,000. That's a good play. Cornelius, like you said, I don't mind. Evans, I don't mind that. Bo, if you had a couple more touchdowns, I'd maybe lean towards Bo, but you never know what's going to go on in Toronto. Adam?
Yeah, right now I've got Nathan Rourke. Even though I did call him a cheat code for Ryan, I will still take him right now in my fantasy because let's face it, I need to beat Kura somehow. That being said, I'm thinking also I may have to go. If I don't take Nathan Rourke, I changed my mind on what I'm building. I'm probably looking at Bo Levi Mitchell. He's playing an Eastern Division opponent. That should be enough to go and give him a couple of extra points. Just because usually the East Division opponents usually get lit up a little bit by the West Division opponents. And Calgary's probably PO'd that they lost that game against BC. So Angry Bo or Nathan Rourke is probably the two choices I've got.
Let's take a look at the running backs this week. Jamal Morrow's the most expensive at $89.12. There's a lot of question marks for running back this week because we don't know who's back from injury quite yet. We don't know who's in the lineup. It looks like James Butler is back in the lineup this week and should be starting. Over in Ottawa, William Powell is out due to injury this week. I think it remains to be seen. Is it Devontae Williams, who's been a healthy scratch, sliding back in as the starting running back? Is it Jackson Bennett, a real cheap play at $2,500 who has gotten some reps the last couple of weeks? We'll need to check the depth charts on that. Calgary, is Kadeem Carey ready to go? He's, I think, been limited a couple days in practice. If not, Dedrick Mills probably gets the start over there. Hamilton, you would think Don Jackson gets the number one job, but Sean Thomas Erlington plays a little in there still as well. Montreal, is it Antwi? Is it Walter Fletcher? Is it Tavian Feaster? How do you know? And Toronto, we're waiting to see which running back gets the bulk of the carries here in the absence of Andrew Harris. So, yeah, I've pretty much run through every team here, and I don't have a definitive answer on who the starting running back is for a lot of these at this point in time. So it's kind of hard to talk about. But the options I do like, I probably will put whoever the starting running back for Toronto is, whether it's AJ Ouellette or Daniel Adebaboye, into the lineup. $4,000 or $3,500. I think that's pretty cheap. I think that's pretty good for a potential starter here who I think they will still get involved decently well. I'm not sure I'm going Devontae Williams at $4,000, but if Jackson Bennett's available as the starter at $2,500, he's had a couple decent games in a row for Ottawa facing an Elks defense that sucks against the run. I kind of like the really cheap chance on a Jackson Bennett. And then in terms of top running backs this week, I'm probably looking at Don Jackson because I think, again, Hamilton will try to get him more involved in the passing game. He's got the red zone threat potential there for him. That's kind of the options I like at running back this week. A couple I really don't are Jamal Morrow and James Butler, high-priced options, because they've both had real dips in point totals as the season has gone along. Like, they're still averaging over 16 points each, but it seems like it's been a little while since we've gotten touchdowns out of them, and that really hurts your totals here. And you got to make sure they're going to be used if you're spending that much money on them. So that's what I see at running back this week. Let's start with you, Adam. What do you see here?
Well, you're right, Ryan. I don't like Jamal Morrow. Reason being, you don't know what Jason Moss is going to call this week. If he decides I don't want to go and run the ball, which seems to be often lately, I don't like Jamal Morrow's chances here. I don't mind maybe even looking at a really cheap, but he's not that cheap either. It's Frankie Hickson. I ran with him once to try to see what I could get out of that. I know he's healthy and he's ready to go this week. But the other thing is BC's very good against the run. So is Saskatchewan, especially if they're going to get healthy on the defensive line. So I don't like James Butler. I am looking at AJ Ouellette as well, see what he can bring out of Toronto, to see if he can pick up some points for me. And you mentioned also in Ottawa there, the $2,500 option in Jackson Bennett. I think he could be a pickup as well if he is the starter, or even if he gets any reps, essentially. He doesn't have to make a whole lot and pay up that $2,500. So either one of those possibly. I'm avoiding the big money this week. Trey?
No, I agree. I have AJ Ouellette, and that one, of course, will be pending depth chart. But my other one pending depth chart, I have Jashawn Antry. So I'll probably go with I'm trying to stay, other than Rourke and one other guy we'll talk, or two other guys later I'll talk about. I'm trying to stay away from the West because you don't know what's going to happen in BC, Saskatchewan, and Edmonton. You don't know what's going to happen in Calgary. You don't necessarily know what's going to happen. So some of these positions, I like the Hamilton and Montreal game. You could see some fantasy points there when two bottom feeder teams kind of meet off, right? It could be a 45-45 shootout, kind of like BC Calgary was, or it could be 10-9. So you never know. So, but yeah, Antwi and Ouellette right now, but we'll see when depth charts come out.
Yeah, that is the finicky thing with fantasy football, is a lot can depend on who's in the lineup, especially at a position like wide receiver, which we move on to next here. As usual, I'll let you guys go through and tell me who you've got in your lineups here at this position. Let's start with you, Adam. What are you looking at wide receiver this week?
I'm looking at three guys that I'm just kind of trying to stay within my fantasy bucks due to the fact that I'm looking at picking up a Nathan Rourke this week. The three guys I'm looking at right now is Jake Wieneke. He had a pretty good game there last week against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I think probably he's going to continue that with the Hamilton against the Ticats. I do like Wieneke. The other one also that I'm looking at is Keon Hatcher. He didn't have as big of a game maybe against the Calgary Stampeders as others. He still had a pretty good game, though, and I do like him as well for fantasy, especially up against the Saskatchewan Roughriders secondary that sometimes lets that big play once in a while go through. Another guy that I'm looking at is another Montreal Alouette, is Tyson Philippou. He's going to break at one of these games. I don't know which one it is. He's either going to break a touchdown for a return or he's going to get a touchdown in receiving. He's been getting better and better and better every week. I think that he's going to start pushing Hergy Miala out of the position that he's in, and Philippou is going to fill that probably sooner than later. So I think that might be also an interesting option on wide receiver. Again, because I'm picking up some of the big money up on my quarterback, I can't afford a whole lot in receiver, so that's what I'm looking at right now. Trey, what are you looking at?
As of now, I'm going for a hunch play, and you're not seeing double. I'm going to have two Philpotts take up my receiver positions and only be $5,000 there. So I like what Tyson's doing in Montreal, but if you watched CFL Wired Up this week, Jalen almost took one, and people were commenting on the sidelines, I think the Twin would have taken it back. So he might go for one here or there, having a little brotherly competition. I know I would always want, if my brother was a CFL kick returner, I would definitely try to up show him every time I have. So that's where I'm going there. And my flex, right now, I got Loxley. It's always a weird play with him. You never know what you can have. That one's interchangeable. I'm not too confident in it. Just kind of where I am with salary cap right now.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the cheaper options are the way to go this week. Of course, if you do want to spend up for Nathan Rourke, you kind of have to. I like what both of you said about Tyson and Jalen Philpott. I've been toying with putting one of them in my lineup for weeks, and then I always try to guess, well, which one should I put in, and then I don't know which one's going to have the better week, and then I panic and I pick neither of them. So you kind of avoid that option if you that scenario. If you pick them both like Trey, you got to get one of them is going to have a big week. Of the two, I really like Jalen Philpott because he put up 20 points last week. He gets involved on the kickoff returns. If there's injuries at wide receiver in Calgary, he should get some good play time there as well. But, looking at the wide receiver charts, shout out to Dominic Rhymes, who is now the most expensive at 96.84. The whole time we've been doing this segment, he's probably scored 5 more touchdowns. It's really hard to pick those BC receivers now. They're so expensive. Brian Burnham, I kind of like at 87.53 if you can spend up. He had a monster game last week coming back from injury the past couple. But maybe like Adam said, I think, Keon Hatcher is the safer play because he's a little bit cheaper there. And you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. On the Hamilton side of things, I like Stephen Dunbar at 74.22 still. I know he had a down week last week. I like Tim White for more of a role in that offense with Braylon Addison out at 69.86. That played out really well for me last week with him. Scrolling down the list here. One guy that really intrigues me is Nate Bahar of the Ottawa Redblacks, and that's a guy I'm strongly considering putting in my lineup because I think, playing Edmonton, coming off the bye, I'm expecting a bounce back from Caleb Evans. Do I maybe want to spend, $7,000, $8,000 on Jalen Acklin? I don't know. It burned me last time. So maybe you go a couple $1,000 cheaper and take Nate Bahar, who's averaging 11 points a game on the season and put up 14.8 his last time out and has had a couple good games there in a row for them. And then scrolling down the rest of the list, the ones I'm strongly considering there are the Philpotts, as you guys mentioned, as well as the cheap plays this week at wide receiver. Well, taking a look over at the defensive side of it, Calgary's the most expensive at just under $4,000. BC is at just over $3,600. Toronto at $3,524. Saskatchewan at $3,476. Ottawa at $3,401. Then your bottom play defenses are Montreal, Hamilton, and Edmonton at $3,200. Sorry, Adam, cover your ears here, but I think BC might be the optimal play this week, at least in my eyes, if you can fit them in. We saw Saskatchewan's offensive line struggle pretty big against Edmonton last week. BC is one of the top teams in terms of defensive sacks, or I guess sacks are always defensive. And, a number of defensive stats. Yeah, they put up, I think, a 0 total last week with a big score against Calgary, but I think they've got a high-quality defense that could cause some disruption there. Then other than that, I don't know. I struggle with what direction to go here at defense. I always like to, try to recommend one of the bottom play ones here. And maybe, I don't know here, guys. Maybe it's Montreal. Probably I'm leaning towards Montreal. Is Matt Schiltz, confident in his, are we confident in his play? Are we confident in Dane Evans? We saw Montreal rack up some sacks against the Bombers last week. So if you're looking for a cheap play, that might be the one to go with. Let's go to you here first, Trey. Who do you have on defense this week?
I have to go with the team that kept the back-to-back defending Grey Cup champions under 20 points through 60 minutes and one overtime frame, I guess. It's kind of, I understand it's a season-long thing, but it's kind of hard to see a team, Montreal, do have the defensive game they did against Winnipeg and then go against Hamilton, and they're still a cheap team. So I'm going to go with Montreal. Again, I'm saving my extra pennies, so I can buy a plane ticket to Nathan Rourke's Hall of Fame induction in Hamilton later this year. Adam, what about you?
I'm looking at two options here. The first one, again, Saskatchewan fans, you might want to cover your ears. I'm going to say it. I'm going to take the BC Lions right now. Until the Riders can actually prove to me that they've got an offensive line that can hold more than a three-man front, I'm going to probably take the team that's against the Riders just because I can see a lot of sacks coming against them. The other team that I'm looking at, Trey, you mentioned them, is the Montreal Alouettes, and that's because of the play of, I think it's Mike Moore, I believe. Great plays deserve to be recognized, and he is a guy that should be recognized on that Montreal's defense as a threat. And if he can keep it going against a Hamilton team that, again, is a little bit wishy-washy on which quarterback is going to be in, I think it's a good chance there for the Montreal defense to capitalize. The other ones, I mean, Saskatchewan, they're going to get some pieces back. You never know. They might be able to put some pressure up on Nathan Rourke. Let's hope so. But again, Nathan Rourke has just been absolutely insane so far this season. The main reason why I'm taking BC, though, is one reason. Every time I take a defense, that defense explodes and implodes, and it just goes right down. And that means that Saskatchewan should win this game. And that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Chris in the chat says Darth Vader size no. Adam, I guess does not like that pick, that suggestion there. I think that's it for fantasy this week over here for that segment. I'm just going to get Adam to reconnect his video here. I think it's a bit frozen. Adam, if you could do that, that would be great. While we get into our betting segment, our picks against the spread, powered by Betstamp. Of course, you can track our picks on the Betstamp app every single week. You can find us in the marketplace there. CF Countdown Pod is the username. And visit betstamp.app today to learn more about it and use our referral code CFC to sign up for that. And we bring Adam back in. Video's unfrozen. We're ready to go. And we hand things over to resident betting expert Trey to take us through this segment.
Yeah, guys, I forgot to make my fantasy slides this week, so that's okay. But first game of the week, doubleheader on Friday. We first go to Ottawa, where the Edmonton Elks road dogs plus 4.5. This is an interesting game. How you give Edmonton the underdog here. I wonder if there's going to be some weird stats that will change once the depth charts come out, kind of like we saw last week with Toronto Hamilton. I guess I got to take Edmonton at the plus 4.5. I think they're the better team, but they're the underdog. So when that happens, you got to take those odds. Let's go with Ryan.
Yeah, I saw this. I looked at these odds this week, and I was kind of floored to see that big of a favorite for Ottawa here, because we're talking about a 2-win football team in Edmonton and a 1-win football team in Ottawa. Nothing to write home about for either of them. Where Edmonton's 2 wins are against the East. I think they might be undefeated against the East, if I'm correct. Or at least 2-1, if that. They haven't had a ton of games out East. And Ottawa hasn't won a home game in bloody forever. So I was shocked to see that Edmonton was the underdogs in this one. And yeah, I saw that and said, yeah, I'm taking Edmonton at those odds. And, you know, the best odds from Betstamp here, if you're going to pick, either side of the spread here is pays out 1.91 from CoolBet. I think that's you bet $10. I believe you get $9.10 cents is the additional you can win there. But even, and I was appalled at the money line pick on this one too, which was a 2.75. Like it seems to me like everybody's discounting Edmonton, and I think that, like you said, Trey, I think they're the better team almost. So yeah, I'll take the Elks this week. So Adam, are you making it a full consensus here? Or are you going the other direction?
No, I'm going to make it a full consensus too, because I think the Edmonton Elks are a better team than the Ottawa Redblacks. They had a little bit more consistency last week. Taylor Cornelius could seem to move the ball a little bit easier. Kenny Lawler had a pretty good game overall. They just ended up shooting themselves in the foot more than anything. If they can get over that, this game should almost be a walk for the Edmonton Elks as far as I'm concerned. So, no, I'm going to go with the Edmonton Elks this week. And whoever I'm sorry for the owners of the Ottawa Redblacks if I insulted you, but no, the Edmonton Elks are just probably the better team and way better odds for the Edmonton Elks right now.
Sounds good, guys. Yeah, let's see about this next game. I think we're going to a little split on this one. The finale on Friday night. Late game starts at 9, way past my bedtime on a Friday night, but we'll see. BC on the road favored. We have different odds up on yours. You have a best at -5.5 for BC on my phone right now. I have a -4.5 on something called Party Pokers. I don't know if our websites are just different, Because I'll take 4.5 if you guys will allow me, or do I have to take the 5.5?
I think we got to go off the best odds here on the podcast.
Okay. Nope, that's fine. I'll take -5.5 on BC. On my personal one, though, if anyone looks, I did just click -4.5. I'm sorry, Adam. I think BC's just a touchdown or two better, but watch me be wrong. Ryan, let's go to you first so Adam can just stew a little bit when we don't take Saskatchewan.
Yeah, well, Adam's pick is not going to matter for the consensus here again. I'm taking the Lions at -5.5. This one was the easiest game of the week for me. I think as Adam sips from the Riders Cup again, it's no offense to your football team, good sir. It is just I am very high on the Lions, everything they've done. Nobody has really shut them down yet, and I don't think the Riders are going to be the team to do it. So they're at -5.5 from CoolBet. You could go Saskatchewan at +6.5 from Bet99 to get your best payout there. But I'm going the Lions side of this one. Adam, are you joining us, or are you sticking with your guys in green?
I've been drinking the green Kool-Aid all night long over all of this, and you know what? Those games that people think should be the team that should win. Again, in this one, it should be the BC Lions. They are a very good football team right now. They've got one of the best quarterbacks that this league's seen in many of years. They've got a receiving core that's together that right now I think rivals some NFL teams. And they've got a defense that's very, very, very good. You know what? That's the time, as Mark Trestman said in the 2008 Grey Cup, we got them right where we want them. I'm going to take the Saskatchewan Roughriders to cover this. I'm not sure if they're going to beat them, but I definitely know that they're going to cover this 6.5 points. I can see the Riders getting a little bit healthier. They're going to put all the stops to it. And the Riders don't like losing at home. Let's face it, it's going to be a big rocking crowd. The Madhouse at Mosaic. I'm going to go with the Roughriders. And when I'm right next week, I'm going to have a big smirk on my face.
I just want to mention a comment in the chat here from Chris that says, does BC now take first in the West? A big win this week while Winnipeg's on a bye when, you're making up one of those games would certainly help. I think it's going to be competitive down the stretch. But they got to win this week against Saskatchewan. That's going to take a hit on that if they lose these games in hand, right?
Exactly. I was just going to say, and the plus side is we're taking slightly different odds. We could both be right. BC wins by 6. We're both right, so Adam can sit there and say he was right, and we can say, yeah, but they still lost by 6, right? So it's still a win-win. It could be a win-win situation. But let's go to Saturday, on to the next one here. Hamilton at Montreal. You guys have -3. Great, I love it how my phone has different different ones.
I think we can reconfigure that a little bit afterwards.
That's fine. No, that's fine. I'll still take Montreal -3. I'm hyping them up. I think this is their chance to take over. Like I said, I don't think Toronto's got a good shot against Calgary, and the winner of this in wins could be tied with Toronto for first if they lose, right? So I'm going to take Montreal at home -3. That's interesting. Neutral site game. They think it's a pick 'em. No, the odd makers are wrong on this one. Adam, what do you think?
You know what? I've been looking at this one, and I could see one team kind of on the rise and one team that I think is still going to fall a little bit just because of injuries. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I think that I probably will go with the Montreal Alouettes, and the reason being, again, they're at home. They've got a little bit of momentum on their side. I mean, you got to have a lot of momentum on your side when you just finished beating the defending Grey Cup champs. So, to me, I'm going to go with the Montreal Alouettes. Ryan?
Yeah, Montreal -3 or Hamilton +3.5. This was the hardest game of the week for me, I think, to make a pick on because I don't know if I trust either of these teams to deliver a second straight win here, if I'm being honest. But Montreal, I think their defense played very good last week. I think they have the potential to do so again if they can keep the penalties down. I will, and the offense will hopefully step up a little bit more there as well. So I don't feel super confident in it, but I'll take Montreal at -3 in this one.
Good stuff. And to the last game, Saturday night, 6 p.m. Calgary goes into Toronto. We didn't talk about it, but BMO is going to get a little bit of work done because of the World Cup in a few years. So that might help out the Argos a little bit. You never know. I'm going to take Calgary minus 2.5. I think we're going to get mad Bo, and Bo's going to pick apart an Eastern team pretty and I think again -2. See, I got some odds for -2 right now, -2.5. This could be a touchdown plus game, I think, for Calgary. So I'm going to go Stamps. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, well, and just to touch on, you mentioned that the different odds there. That's the beauty. That's the beauty of this app, right? Betstamp, is that you can see the odds across all the different sports books. You can prioritize the ones that work in your market, things like that. Obviously, there's different ones across them all. So we're going off of these ones here. We've got Calgary -2.5 or Toronto +2.5. I feel like I'm going to be in the minority here, but give me the Argos at +2.5. We've got good game, bad game, good game, bad game from Toronto. I think this last week was a bad one, which I'm expecting a good one. I have faith in McLeod Bethel Thompson, and I don't have a lot of faith right now in that Calgary offense. I think MBT outshines Bo Levi Mitchell in this game. I think Calgary's special teams may, make this interesting here, and their defense. But give me Toronto at home here for +2.5. I will take that gladly.
I know we got it in the chat there. Richard had to say this is almost like pinning the tail on the donkey. I don't know where he came up with that idea, but it's pretty close. In this one here, though, this was actually my easiest pick of the week. I just have a funny feeling that Bo Levi Mitchell is absolutely on a warpath right now for losing that game up against the BC Lions and giving Nathan Rourke an instant nod to the Hall of Fame before he can make it there. So to me, I think that Bo is going to want to show that he's still one of the dominant quarterbacks of this league. He's got some pieces that'll be back maybe for him. I don't know about Malik Henry. I think he will be. Richardson Danny, hard to say on that. But I just have a feeling that Calgary is going to come in, absolutely torch the Argonauts, burn the boat, sink it into the ocean, and never let them come back onto land again. I have a funny feeling that the Argonauts are in trouble in this one. I'm going to go with the Calgary Stampeders, and 2.5 is just icing on the cake.
I like these games where you guys pick differently from me, because then you have the consensus pick, and if you get it right, then I'm proud of you, and if you get it wrong, I'll never let you hear the end of it.
That's okay. That's okay, man. That's okay.
Don't worry, I won't let you hear the end of the Rider one either. So,
Great. So recap. We all took Edmonton +4.5. Brought to you by Outs on Cool Bet. Move on to the later game. Ryan and myself took BC -5.5 on Cool Bet, while Adam took 6.5 on Bet99. And we all took Montreal -3 on Cool Bet. Oh, man, it's really hot in my apartment right now. I wish I had something cool. And then the finale, Calgary and Toronto. Adam and I took Calgary -2.5. And Ryan is believing in Bethel Thompson here and see some magic. So you each disagreed with me once. So, we all can't go perfect this week. So that's too bad.
And what are we looking at our totals here on the season coming in? Do you have those on hand?
Right. No, I do. Give me 1 second. I just closed that.
Do we really have to bring those up, Ryan? We really don't have to bring them up.
Man, Adam, you were doing so good, man. Early on, man. I thought you were going to pass me for sure at one point. Sorry, I just got to go through all the Shrek gifts here. On the total here, so currently in third place, still over 500. It's Adam Stewart at 20-19. That weird week where we only had a 3-game week's keeping you above 500 here, buddy. But that's okay. In second, our new second place for the last week or two, Cooper Trooper here, Mr. Ryan at 22-17. And currently the leader here, myself, 24-15. Me and Ryan went 2-2 last week, while Adam went 1-3. So keep that in mind if you're looking at our picks too. Hey, Adam's ready for a hot streak, right? That's usually what it means.
And I gotta get 4-0 once. Once I just gotta get 4-0.
In terms of our consensus picks, since we started tracking those a couple of weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, we're 6-6. So let's see if we can get that above 500 this week. It's hard when we're not all on the same page, and somebody ends up being in the right and somebody ends up being in the wrong on some of these. I think that pretty much does it for this episode of the podcast. So let's get into wrapping things up here tonight. Again, I appreciate everybody sticking with us for the later start tonight. We do apologize for the rescheduling of our bonus episode, but we assure you we are hoping to have that come in the next week or two. Well, you'll have to wait till next week, I guess, to find out who it's going to be. And we're very excited about it. It should be a great episode here tonight. We've had a lot of fun previewing everything for week number 11. Of course, storylines, fantasy, and betting. And you can watch us do the same for week number 12 right here again, same time, 9 p.m. Winnipeg time, 8 p.m. Saskatchewan. Other time zones accordingly. Next Wednesday, Monday night. Also, we'll be recapping things at the same time from this week here on the Canadian Football Countdown. You can catch all of those shows and more live every week over on YouTube. You search the Canadian Football Countdown there, or you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, or the Game Time TV YouTube page, all made possible by presenting sponsor Game Time TV. Learn more at facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. If you want to follow us on social media, as mentioned, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. We're at CF Countdown Pod there. Make sure you check out all of the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network at CF Pod Network on Twitter also for all of those shows. Guys, where can people find you as we end everything you've got going on? Let's start with you, Trey.
You can find me at Twitter at TreyMBHarness. If you ever want to talk horse racing, football, UFC this weekend, I'll probably be over. A couple big races this weekend. Queen's Plate, that's the Canadian Triple Crown starter, goes at Woodbine, and something called the Gold Cup and Saucer, the biggest race in the Maritimes. If you're ever out in PEI, it's called Old Home Week. It's a whole provincial party basically centered around this horse race. So, good times. And UFC, I can't remember the number. I never remember the number, but should be a good one if you want to tweet at me on Saturday and Sunday about horse racing UFC at TreyMBHarness. And if you want to see me and Ryan share Shrek gifts, and you want to see me and Adam share Star Wars gifts, that's where it's at. Adam?
Yeah, you can find me at Adam Stewart 1. Guys, I'll be at the Rider game on Saturdays, or on Friday. Saturday will be a little late. But if you show up on Friday, hey, come and visit with me, say hi, see how things are going. And don't worry, if you're wearing orange, I won't make fun of you too much, maybe a little bit. But no, you can find me at Adam Stewart 1 over on Twitter. If you want to find me over on Instagram, it's at Farmer in Sask. Same thing over on the YouTube. I am on that one as well. And make sure you also give Mike Garrell a follow. He's over at Mike Garrell, or you can also find him at Game Time TV MB, I believe. So, give both of us a follow, or hey, come visit with me over at the Rider game here on Friday evening.
Right on. Yes, Trey, you did mention the Shrek gifts. We, of course, did have a lot of fun with a little bit of a GIF war there about Shrek the other day. And it led to a bit of a debate amongst us at like 1 a.m. after a game finished the other day. I don't know. Do we want to get into that now? Do we want to save it for another week? How are you feeling here, Trey?
I want to thank the 2 out of the 3 people who voted for the movie that I thought was better. So that's all I got. Yeah, 2 people thought Shrek the Third was better. 1 loser thought Shrek Forever After was better. So, But OG 1 and 2. OG 1 and 2. You're not beating those 2. That's Godfather and Godfather 2 right there. Anything after that, don't worry about.
That's why 3 is just such a disappointment, because 1 and 2 are so good. And like 3 and 4, like 4 is not great either. Yeah. But the bar is so low after number 3 that 4 is amazing.
I think if there's one line, we could get into this all night. We're going to make this into a 2-hour show. There's one when you meet the wizard He's just unreal in the third one. I find him unreal. Merlin, I think it is.
Merlin's so overdone.
No, it's not. He is so funny when he calls Justin Timberlake's character a nutcase. It's unreal, guys. Never mind. We're never gonna agree to this, Ryan.
We're not.
I can't help you guys in this one to debate it either because I've only seen the one. So.
Oh, you got to watch the second one, buddy.
Yeah, come on.
I'll give you my Amazon account number, man. You can.
I got Amazon. I just never watched the second one.
Oh, man, you got to watch.
And you're participating in the Shrek GIF war,
but only with OG ones.
Yeah, well, when you said Puss in Boots to him earlier, that's who he was. He probably who's that?
No, he was in the first one.
Puss in Boots isn't in the first.
No, he's not, Adam.
No.
Was he?
No.
Maybe that's because I watched the Puss in Boots movie for some reason.
Okay, Adam, here's what you do. Chris in the chat has some advice for you. You go down to your local Walmart, you find the DVD bin, you jump in there, just dive face first, and you pick out the $5 bin Shrek movies, and then you report back to us. Maybe we'll have a Shrek watch party or something here one of these weeks, but you gotta watch them.
I think I still have the tape, the VHS of the original ones kicking around my parents' house, man. I got to go find that.
We've updated at least a beta player over in Saskatchewan, Trey. We're quite fine without VHSs, just saying.
Oh, man.
Like a DVD ball pit, says Richard. I agree. Yep, that's what the Walmart bin is. That's Shrek, greatest Shrek 1, though. Shrek 1 or Shrek 2. Greatest movie of all time, no doubt at all. So if you ever want to talk about Shrek, if you ever want to talk about CFL Fantasy, you can follow me on Twitter at CooperTrooper42, and we can talk about any of those and all of those things there. As the guys mentioned, lots of fun with the Twitter interactions there. Anybody have anything else they wanted to mention before we wrap it up? Nope, we're good to go.
Thank you, Chris. The Mandalorian is also the greatest Star Wars of all time, and Adam still hasn't seen it. And Ryan. Maddie, I don't want to talk to you about Star Wars. It's okay.
If I got to watch 3 and 4, 2, 3, and 4, Ryan's got to start watching, I think, at least the first trilogy. Doesn't he, Trey?
Like the original trilogy? Yeah, everyone has
to watch. Not happening. I missed the boat. It's too far. No.
Not a chance.
Well, then you know what? Then Ryan, I think I side with Adam on that Canadian quarterback thing after all.
It's okay. I'll start a second Canadian. It's fine. It's fine.
I don't think we should pull his points. Anybody else?
Yeah, you can submit it to the commissioner, but I have a feeling I know our league commissioner pretty well, and I have a feeling he will deny your requests for that. But you can try. Lots of fun, lots of laughs here tonight. I think we are about finished here, folks. Thanks to everybody who chimed in the chat all night long. Lots of fun comments to interact with. Always appreciate the people who tag along with us live. Whatever podcast platform you're watching or listening on, we appreciate if you do all the fun things such as like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We very much always appreciate that. Stay tuned next week for more fun here on the podcast. And until then, enjoy this weekend's games. Thanks for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.